Boom, there we go. Boom, there we go. Let's see who's first. Who gets the trophy? Trophy is up. Who's got it? Up for grabs. I'm here early. Oh, wow. The guest actually wins the trophy. That's a first. All right. Good to see everyone. Good to see everyone. Let's get our guest in here right now. Wow. That is amazing. That's a first.
Looking forward to this. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, okay, I'll get this the right way around. Here we are.
How you doing?
Not that way.
That was interesting, though. I did want to talk to you about that, too. Wow, that's nice. I like it.
Hey, Emmanuel, thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure having you on, man. I've been looking forward to this all day.
Cool. I will just adjust this and see if it does anything nice and cooperative. Here we go. I have a dream one day that this is actually going to somehow work. Never mind.
Don't. In the future, we'll probably just have stuff that we just look into our eyes and you can already see it. Just technology is like getting so advanced.
Yeah, it will be beautiful, Emmanuel. Yeah. Beautiful.
Man, I am so happy to have you on. I wanted to say thank you for your time. I know it's late, and I know you came, and I'll try not to keep you on. But I've been researching and doing a lot of video watching for like the past couple days, and my interest level is totally peaked on this. So that's why I'm really excited about doing this with you. So I really appreciate you coming on with me. Lots of stuff I got to talk to you about. Lots of stuff. So thank you.
That's real cool. It's always a real privilege and an honor to have folks interested in your artwork. You know, and it's great to be speaking to you. You're a lovely guy, and your audience as well. Thanks for them all coming in and saying hello as well.
Yes, yeah. So the first question I have for you, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Tasty cakes or mini ice cream Mars bars? Which do you prefer better?
Oh man! In my 20s, I seriously overdosed on ice cream Mars bars. You know, that was a bad time, a dark time in my life.
Yeah, I was watching that today, and I was like, the intro that you had, you were saying, oh yeah, we had a shoestring budget, and so we were eating these little mini ice cream bars, and I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta ask him because you said tasty cakes and another one.
The way the film industry is now, you know, you never afford ice cream Mars bars. It would have to be a generic home brand.
Yeah. So I was going through your history. And of course, I want to hear your side of it too. But it started off very interesting. One of the things that I saw that you had a short film. You started off in commercials, but you had a short film that actually got shown at Sundance that had who was it? It was Gordon Love Hewitt and Channing Tatum. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah. So you had Joseph Gordon-Levitt from like 500 Days of Summer, and you know the TV series Third Rock Around the Sun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that was I think that's what it. And yeah, Channing Tatum. That's really awesome. So like that was crazy how that came about, and because basically I'm an independent filmmaker that works in a kind of blue collar part of the country in Scotland, you know, ex-mining kind of place, not a place where there's a lot of creative industry activity. You know, you would leave to go to London or like just in the US, you'd go to New York or LA or anything to do this. But me and my collaborator, Sarah Daly, who runs our outfit,
yeah,
you know, we're hanging out one evening. We've been making our own stuff, and phone rings, and it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and I'm like, holy shit! I thought it was a prank call because, you know, here's this Hollywood actor, and at the time we were doing like little, you know, commercials, corporate videos and stuff. But what Sarah had done is she had put some material out online, and he had just read it and was like, holy shit! I love this script.
Wow.
So for fun, he and his partner at the time, Alexandra Nicole Hume, they just filmed this stuff in their apartment, right? And they kind of sent it back. Like they had fun with it, you know, like they filmed it on their phones and stuff. And like, hey, haha, we did it, you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I came in, because I was like, holy shit, that's amazing. So they actually filmed some stuff of this of our script. So I was like, right, damn it, I'm gonna take this footage and I'm gonna like do whatever I can to jazz it up. You know, like I cut them out of their apartment and like put them into these cool kind of like steampunk multi-layered animations with cartoons that were drawn by a friend of mine called Jennifer Maria. And like, so what they did for what was kind of fun, suddenly got all the stuff was coming back to them that we were working on, and it looked amazing. And they were like, "Holy shit, you know, you're taking this stuff really seriously." And then that's when they took it really seriously, and they were like, "Right, well, this looks so good that I'm going to show it to Robert Redford and get shown as part of the screenings going on for Sundance." So I'm like, "Okay, great."
Yeah, you're just like, and what was the name of the film or the show?
So folks can watch it online. It's called. There's two short films. One of them played at Sundance, and the other one played at South by Southwest. They're called Morgan and Morganson.
Morgan and Morganson.
And the second one is called Morgan and Morganson Second Date, the Zeppelin Zoo. And that's the one that I'm Channing Tatum in it. And I also feature in these films as a really pompous waiter in both films, and I save Joseph Gordon-Levitt's life from a vengeful Channing Tatum by throwing a banana skin at him whilst dressed in a giant panda suit. So, you know, those are...
When's the next time you're ever going to be able to say you can be in a film with them? I mean, I would have to put myself in there too, like somewhere, you know?
Yeah, well, like they ended up wanting... Because you won't know this, man, you know, you won't think this, but I am a legendary asshole. So they were like, Lawrie, you would be great as this evil gimp. that is okay. So I'm playing a kind of villain in these shorts, which is great. And though I guess I kind of have a heart of gold in the end, but it just meant that it was great fun because I got to be one of the main characters with them. And I would never really sought to try and be an actor, you know, but it was just fun. But when it played at when it was Sundance, we had video of Robert Redford like in the audience watching the short, and I was just kind of like, you know. And then in Zeppelin Zoo, when that played at South by Southwest, we had Sean Ono Lennon, John Lennon's son. He was there, and he was a big fan of the film, so he was coming up to me, took us out for dinner, and was really lovely. And it was just like, yeah, it was just really awesome. I was just add like Joseph Gordon-Levitt and he's got a website community called Hit Record, and he's done a lot of cool stuff to help artists, you know, get their work raised to prominence.
Yeah. Kind of like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon do at times, like when they do their Greenlight stuff.
Totally, like with Sarah Daly. I mean, he's flown her out to conventions, and she's done a lot of stuff. She's done a lot of collaborations with Joe and his friends as well, like Gary Oldman and Anne Hathaway and stuff. Things for theatre and film, and even me. I mean, like, he gave me a shout out on Carson Daly and just cute stuff like that. That is like, I think cute stuff. It's like, wow.
That's really cool because like that launched you into your and forgive me if I'm messing it up. That's your first film, right? Which was Lord of Tears, or did you have something before that?
Right. Well, here's the thing, right? Those opportunities that happened, those were exciting. And if I was an artist, like of the normal variety, I would have tried to build a career. And I would be like, I'm out there, I'll be mingling and trying to make things. But you know, I'm an old salty producer, so. So I'm stuck behind the desk with a pen, like, okay, we need money for this goddamn movie. What are we gonna do? You know, so there's only so far I can really go with those folks. So with all that wonderful experiences, I was still needing to get funds to make a movie. You know, it looks great on Facebook, but it doesn't pay the bills. You know, so I was very fortunate to. There was a big winter. It must have been like 2010 or 11, um, and I don't think I had very much money. Me and Sarah, we were like, right, somehow we have to live. So let's spend what we've got on this ridiculous end of the world apocalyptic film with two people, and we'll just get all the extras from people we meet in the street, and we'll get them to sign waivers after they've performed a few lines.
So yeah, so you don't have to like, so you don't have to pay them or anything, or just they just get on.
It was great, Emmanuel. You know, it was great. And this film, which is not the most amazing film, but it was called Whiteout. I ended up going, man, I went to the studios, Pinewood, which is the centre of film business activity in the UK, with this DVD in my hand of this mediocre film. And somehow I managed to leave with a deal. And that deal was enough to fund Lord of Tears and to give me and Sarah like a full-time salary for a year. Like it was like a small windfall that we could use as seed money to develop what would be our horror film studio.
Hex, and that's Hex Studios, correct?
Yeah.
I was reading through this whole history, and you've had some, you know how like some people are kind of destined to do certain things, and there's struggle involved, but there's always things that kind of just push you along just to keep you going. And I kept seeing that with each one of the things. I know I'm simplifying it because I know that there's probably been struggles and there's difficult times and stuff like that, but it just seems like it's kind of funneled you into this, this pathway. I was looking at your Facebook the other day, and it was cool because you were out looking for these props and stuff. And I was like, wow, this is amazing because they're very interesting. And then when I was watching the movie again today, you always seem to manage to squeeze those things into these shots, these tight shots. And I'm like, that's where it kind of personalizes the film. And then it also just, it makes it very unique. I really want to dive deep into that in a little bit. But man, that movie, when I was watching it today, I had watched it again. But man, it was really good. But I know I'm going everywhere, but it's just amazing, like this journey that you have and all these little elements that push you into this.
I mean, thanks, man. I mean, with all humility, we had enough money from that deal to have a go at something. If it had failed, we would have been back to square one.
Right.
With Lord of Tears, which was sometimes called the Owlman, we sought to create a character that we'd get really excited by. A kind of like a horror antagonist, I guess you could say it's like an IP, but we don't call it that in our hearts. You're trying to make a cool character that's just like, yes. And me and Sarah, we always loved the idea of the eternal bogeyman. So we also like stuff from ancient history, and the occult history and religion and things. When I was a student, I was a student of ancient history and religion at St Andrews University. It's like a kind of Harry Potter type place. So I was always kind of inspired by that kind of stuff. So it was like, how could you fuse all these elements?
Yeah.
And then one day we saw a Victorian Christmas card with an owl man wearing, it was like a guy with an owl for a head. He had reindeer antlers and Christmas baubles on his tailcoat, and human hands. And I was like, holy shit, this combined with our interests and like the religions of ancient Phoenicia, things like to do with like Moloch or Molech, and even pop cultural inspirations like Slenderman and things. It was like there's just little bits of things, and also I'm a big fan of anthropomorphic depiction. It's like an animal head on anything, and I'm like, cool. I'm interested.
It's I like how you paced it in the movie because like obviously I initially met you through the group and because you were doing your Kickstarter for the new project that you're working on, and I was like, oh, this would be interesting to talk to him. And so that was my first initial introduction to the character. So I went in and I was watching the movie, And as I'm going along, it's like, you know how horror films nowadays, it's mainly focused jump scares and it's
Yeah.
big character reveal, and it gets a little boring, but like this was paced out through the movie very well. I mean, you get a nice dose. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but you get a nice dose throughout the whole film. And there's just so many interesting things about it. Like what was it, you shot it in 13 days, right? That movie was in 13 days, and then something. Yeah, that's a tight shooting schedule. Like
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you should see my face on day 13. You know, something like, "Oh," just spinning the empty chamber of my revolver. Get me out of here! You know.
yeah. Well,
Then you learn it's like that on every shoot. You know, so it's okay.
yeah,
um, Lord of Tears. I mean, so there was this incredible Gothic mansion in the Highlands. Once I found that location, I was like,
yeah.
there is a place where anything could happen. So I was like, right, we need to film there. As I was always inspired by Gothic filmmakers. I mean, I always loved the old British horror studios like Hammer and Amicus. But I also
Hmm.
like weird filmmakers like Ken Russell as well, who's got a very melodramatic kind of theatrical style, which currently isn't in vogue. You know, like, kind of films that are cool at the moment is, you know, a guy vaping in slow motion at a diner window to a synth score. You know, so my stuff will,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
It,
that's cool.
yeah.
But my stuff will be like a bit campy compared to that. Oh, well, steam campy compared to that. But like just great horror as well. Like I had one of the weird fortunes or misfortunes of watching like before the J horror scene hit. You know, a friend of mine was visiting Japan and coming in with these like video CDs, you know, VCDs. And I was
Right.
like, hey, look at this! It's a PG. It's rated like as a kids film almost. And I was like, what is that? You know, it's like a
Yeah.
hentai cake. It's really weird. I put off watching it for like a month or something, and then eventually I put it on, thinking like, wow. I thought it was even a video game. Wasn't sure what it was. Ended up being like Begrudge, as it would, or Ju-on, as it would be, and
Yeah.
you hadn't seen anything like that before. And then Ringu I saw very shortly afterwards, and I was like, it got me excited again for the horror genre because prior to that, it was very much the kind of green tinted torture porn stuff that was kind of defining that era of horror. You know, we're kind of talking like the first early 90s, which is fine. But for me, you know, ghost stories and things like that are what interest me. So it was cool to see the Japanese film industry doing something that was so original, putting a new spin on it.
Yeah.
Scotland, I was like, well, is there anything we can do from a Scottish perspective? That's, I guess, it's often associated with folk horror, you know, like a pagany type stuff.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, that's good. So that's Lord of Tears, really.
Right. And you can see the inspiration. Like I said, I really don't want to spoil any of this for anybody that hasn't seen it. But like I said, I was talking to my girlfriend about it today. She's like, "Well, you know, what'd you think?" And I said it's one of those cult movies that you're watching. But for me, it was a slow burn. Like when you're watching it, you're going through, and there's times you're like, "Well, what's going on?" But at the end, for me, it made sense. Like there's these scenes, these cut scenes that you go into, and I was like, well, one part when she's dancing with him, and it's what I was thinking at the time was like, why is she doing this? I don't understand what's going on. And
Yeah.
then the candle, when she blows it out and she whispers, and I'm like, I was like, I don't understand. And then when I get to the end of the movie, it makes sense. Not only because of the storyline, but it's also the character. Because I noticed that with the characters, you take a little bit of time to kind of like give them personality so you make that connection with them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So at the end, I know I'm telling you this stuff and you're like, yeah, I know, that's what I did. But you're like,
No, it's cool.
yeah, but at the end, you're like, there's more of an attachment. And so I go, okay. And then when these certain things happen, there's more impact. At least it was for me. There, like at the end, that last, I don't know what it is, 10 or 15 minutes, literally, I was like, ooh, and it's got some very good stuff. The what was it? Alexandria Nicole Hume,
Yeah, so good
amazing,
worked with on Morgan. She was in that. Yeah, she's a collaborator.
amazing.
She's amazing, super
Yeah,
talented. A really talented filmmaker as well. She's done some great short films that folks can watch on Vimeo. But he has to deal with the dance scene. So like because and this is a great example of what would be called British romanticism in cinema, particularly prevalent in slightly artier British films in the 60s and 70s, where the romanticism aspect would be to take someone's emotional state and then express it beyond drama and words so that it could, without drawing attention to itself, say, transition from ordinary behavior to something more stylized like dance, for example.
hmm
And you'll see that in lots of Ken Russell films. So he gets the credit because he's one of the biggest romantic era or British romantic filmmakers. And you'll see that's kind of a motif in my films sometimes, is that they can just take this slightly stylized kind of it'll probably seem kind of theatrical kind of lurch, into things like dance and things like that.
yeah,
But like well, I also quite like doing a reversal on that dance scene as well, and a more sinister version of it.
yeah. It connects.
And
Like
it's
everything connects. It probably it works for her too because she does dance too. Like she's a ballet dancer too. So I mean,
and a great choreographer. Like you could put her, like I put her in that room, right? And I was like, Alexandra, you create magic. You have a lamp. There's a lampshade.
yeah,
Do
and
you need
yeah,
anything else? She was like, leave me for like half an hour, 40 minutes. I'll put something together.
mhm.
And I came in and I was like, this looks like she's weaving a spell. It's magical, strange, and
Yeah.
it's like I like it. Film it. Just film it. It's great.
Yeah, but it also makes to me, it just made the scene unique. And like I said, everything, hearing the backstory, like, everything kind of ties together. Like you, at the end, I was like, I get it. And that there's that, that maternal kind of like part of it too. And I also like how I only got the chance to watch a little bit of that one that you told me, gosh, the
That kind of
Ravens, Unforgiveness of Ravens.
the unkindness of Raven and
Unkindness,
kindness.
yeah. Yeah, that one resonated with me because you were I think you showed it at like Fright Fest, but it was like based off of PTSD and soldiers. So I was like, oh, because I was in the military, and so I
Oh,
was
I
like,
see.
oh, so I was like, this is going to be kind of interesting. But there's a theme, it seems like, with you, like psychologically, you're able to take some of these things that some people are afraid of, but then also you mix in some of the traditional stuff like mythology, religion, and you kind of like weave those together to come up with these stories.
Yeah, I mean, Duncan's the Ravens is a very special project to me, and God knows the second half of that film goes totally off the handle into wild, wild territory. It really, really does. So you're in for a roller coaster, especially in the last act on that one. Um, well, I had done voluntary workshops for military veterans at the hospital when they were trying to learn camera gear because they were on a program to record their experiences. Some of them, it was part of a therapy, but also because they were trying to be creative, and it was a cool program. So I was just volunteered my time to do that because I just have a great respect for folks that serve in our armed forces and protect us.
Yeah,
But they experience things that and see things obviously that many of us, well, we can't know. Even if you can find pictures online, it's not the same.
yeah,
So this film was inspired by some of the personal experiences that the folks had that I was working with. And the actor Jamie Scott Gordon that was working with me, he spoke with them as well
hmm
and spent time with them. And what we did was we combined those issues, a lot of it surrounding the idea of survivor's guilt, with an aspect of Norse mythology that surrounds the Valkyrie, whose role was to in religion was to decide who lived or died on the battlefield.
yeah,
And what we discovered was that the version of the Valkyrie that existed before the kind of lady with the tin helmet was actually a more demonic manifestation that resembled a kind of anthropomorphic crow, a kind of crow demon. So I was like, wow, you tell me that these crow demons were the people that's supposed to decide which warriors lived or died in ancient battlefields. So we thought, let's have an idea where the soldier character has a phobia of ravens and crows because of an incident that occurs during his service.
Oh, you're fading out?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no worries, no worries.
Am I back now?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
So our hero is traumatized by an incident involving ravens and crows. And we thought that gives us a great opportunity to combine the mythology with these Valkyries who could take on a demonic manifestation. So to try and recover, he's off in the Highlands in a cabin. But as time goes on, he starts to get unsettled because it looks like the ravens and crows are taking notice of him. And you're not sure to what extent it's his paranoia or if it's something more. But well, it quite eventually escalates into him effectively being almost under siege from these like raven-headed, black-armored medieval warriors, pursuing him through the Highland mists. It gets super intense, and by the end of the film, it's probably one of the most, I would say, very graphic, violent kind of films. But the film actually does pay tribute to the veterans, and in some ways, I don't want to give any spoilers, it is utterly dark and utterly horrific, but at the same time, for some of the veterans who did see it, they thought it was uplifting and rewatchable.
Yeah, I read that. They said that you were able to capture that trauma. Like everybody has their own individual trauma, but they said that on a whole, to be able to have some of these thoughts of of contemplating life and death or dealing with some of that trauma that you have on the battlefield, they said that you were able to do that in a respectful manner, but then mix it in with what you were doing. That's why I was saying I think it's amazing that you can take that psychological part of horror that's always there, but then, like I said, mythology, religion, and you're still able to put all that together and create this interesting storyline with all of these things.
I mean, yeah, thank you. I mean, ultimately, for me, and it's just my preference, but for me, the best kind of psychological ghost story or thriller is not one that tries to be so vague that you don't have any idea, that you can't draw a sense of closure, but also not so specific that it just rules out what might have been a very fun interpretation of the extraordinary events. I mean, I've always taken the view that the universe is so great, expansive, and remarkable, just about anything could exist. So there's no need for me to be so definitive as to rule out the extraordinary things I'm presenting in the film, but to leave enough room that the audience can discern an interpretation that works for them. But to give them enough that they've got something constructive to work with, not so vague that I'm not doing anything and they're having to do all the work to get some meaning out of the film.
Yeah, nice balance between not insulting someone's intelligence, is that, but still be able to keep their attention. Like I said, I was watching Lord of Tears, and as I'm watching, like I said, I was going through it, and I go, this is just a slow burn. There's going to be this payoff at the end, and there was. That performance at the end, that last like 15 minutes, her performance, Alexandra, her performance is well worth it. It's throughout the whole film. I mean, it's not to take a knock at any of the other actors that were in it, but that's the one that really stood out to me. And if anybody watched it, I would definitely say go to Hex Media and watch it, because I know like a lot of people have taken it and put it on there. So I was making sure I went to yours, and that's where I got the intro from.
No, that's cool. I mean, we actually have the whole film on our YouTube channel now. Folks can watch it on channel Hex on YouTube. Certainly appreciate any subs and building that up. But we also sell a Blu-ray on our website, in fact, or on our Kickstarter right now. And it's kind of weird because even though we've had the film out now, we had it sold commercially for years, but it reached a point where it was like, you know what, let people watch it now. We're not going to,
Yeah.
But at the same time, folks still actually buy the Blu-ray. They're like, I like it. I want the super high quality one with all the extras and the
Yeah.
artwork and everything. So it's kind of worked as a weird commercial that get buying the special edition, which is like we care about our films, so we try and make the physical media wonderful. It's like
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I went to the site today because I I wanted to get it because I was trying to think of other ways to like also support it because I want to talk about that too as well, the new stuff that you have going. But then it said it was out of stock, and I go, oh, I said, oh, he's doing the Kickstarter for Linger.
that. It's
But
all part of a cunning, terrible
I
plan.
I
I,
noticed that
I,
because
I,
I clicked all of them. They said so out of stock, out of stock, out of stock. I was like, hey, I was like, because the covers look really cool too. I'm a cover guy too, packaging and stuff like that. And so when I saw it, I go, oh, that's actually cool because they had all four of them all pushed together. And I go, that looks really cool. I was like, let me try. It was like, it's out of stock. I'm like, damn it, come on, man. I was like,
I know. But I promise you, they're all available on Kickstarter, and I think folks can buy them without even buying the film we're doing the Kickstarter for. So but they'll all mysteriously be back in stock when the campaign
I
ends in a
figured, yeah.
couple of weeks.
I figured, yeah. So of course, like I said, I met you through the group, and primarily that was what piqued my interest was, Lord Tears and then Owlman. And so they had a Living Dead doll initially, and then I saw that you had that and you had a prototype, and then that's how we started talking. So I don't, and I'm not trying to like break any barriers here. So if there's something that I ask or if it's out of bounds with that, please just let me know. That's got to be a really unique opportunity as well, because you have this film, that you're starting, and then a company comes and they offer you, some, or I don't know how it transpired, but to be able to have an actual product,
Well,
made from the movie,
yeah.
that's amazing. You know, I can't hear. I'm sorry.
Mez, everyone knows who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yes,
Yeah,
people
yeah,
that
yeah,
know you
Mez.
and then that are in here, they'll know. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mez had actually been a supporter of our films since the beginning. Um,
Oh.
but I didn't know who he was. He was just buying Blu-rays on the Kickstarter.
Oh, that's sneaky guy.
And then, like, eventually he was like, hey,
Yeah, yeah.
I
It
like,
sounds like
I,
him.
I like the Owlman,
Hmm.
can we do something? And I was like, damn right you can. Your stuff's awesome. Like I mean, like I'd heard of Living Dead dolls, and I had a friend that had way too many Living Dead dolls,
Yeah,
and I was like, holy moolah, I mean, as you can tell from the Blu-rays and stuff we do, I'm a massive fan of physical media,
yeah.
tangible things, and I've always had a soft spot for well, dolls and puppets. Now I don't have a lot of dolls, but I do have a bunch of puppets. So I was like, and I love the designs for the Living Dead dolls and the 12 series as well.
Hmm.
Like because we'd actually previously we had released Owlman plushies and Owlman action figures in the style of the Kenner figures from the 1980s,
Hmm.
like in blister packs and stuff. And these were things that we made, in small batches. So I mean, they're cool, but obviously,
It's
Mezco was like, they were like, yeah, Big Daddy's come to town, and this stuff's gonna look shit up,
yeah. It's that. I saw the Living Dead doll and I was like, that's amazing. I had a question. I try not to like detach from it, but like there's a couple questions like for you. So Rumble 112 photos asked, are you a collector? You
Yeah, I've only got like a few like Chucky and Evil Ash, and maybe it's a bit boring because it's like, well, you know, because it's the kind of horror trope classic type guys. And to be
Yeah.
honest, I'll get one, and then what'll end up happening is I'll meet someone who's like a massive fan of the movie, and then I'll be like, he's meant for you, my child. You know,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
about Alec Guinness in Star Wars passing on
Yeah.
the lightsaber. Oh,
Yes,
so then it'll
absolutely.
happen yet again.
There you go.
But like, I see. Oh man, what's her name again? I just got her recently. It's a Living Dead doll. It's the one with the black dress and the white face. It's a classic one.
I know which one you're talking about. It's like the Bride of Chucky one.
Yeah.
It's
No,
like
no,
it's
no,
just
no, no. It's not
no.
by the it's one of their own characters. LDD. Um, but I will just add as well that for the 12 series, or 12-1, like Doc Nocturnal, and all these
Yeah.
guys, you know, I love them. Um, I had a chance to see some cool comic work done for Doc. I don't know if that was released or not, but it looked totally amazing.
Yeah, when they had Mezco Con obviously a couple of weeks ago or a week or two, and then that's how I saw, and then of course I saw that and I was like, yeah, I want to do research and kind of figure out a little bit more about the character. That's a good thing about it, because to be honest with you, 2 weeks ago I didn't know anything about any of this. I didn't know about you. I didn't know about the company. I didn't know about the movie, and it's those kinds of opportunities for me, like as a collector, that just kind of open doors because then you get to meet people, you get to hear people's stories, you get to see their work, and it's amazing. Like I said, the amount of work that has actually gone in to like your not only that movie but the whole career that you've done with like the Hex. I mean, like how many movies have you created in total?
Oh man, I think I've been a producer on something like 13, 12 features or something like that, and I've
Yeah.
directed maybe about 9 myself.
Wow.
To be honest, it's about to go up quite a bit because like I'm been doing a lot more producing as well. Like we kind of make at the moment maybe about 3 films a year, and it's kind of going up a bit.
Yeah.
These are all like low budget movies, really. But the reason they're kind of low budget is we've kind of found a sweet spot where we can really do our own thing,
Mm-hmm.
and we just reach a certain level, and it's like, you know. Oh,
There
sorry.
you go. There you go.
Yep, let's just keep it at the level that lets us have creative independence. So it's always that challenging sweet spot. It's one of the reasons that we still use crowdfunding. Um,
Yes.
but like we'll get help though from like from our own sales as well. I mean, our crowdfunding is mostly sales driven really because we use it for selling our Blu-rays or DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we'll get some investors who, um, to be honest, to be fair, they're really patronizing our art. They're helping us. Um, they'll do wee parts now and then, and that'll help. And also, as a producer, the boring stuff I do, which is essential, like working with the tax breaks for film in the UK and things like that. Like the US state things, you spend so much, you get 20% back. When you become a master of all those things, well, maybe not a master is the right word, but relatively proficient, then you can kind of get by. Um, and we've got some big, cool announcements that I look forward to as well. Things concerning things like studio facilities, and which of course is going to have a gothic character to it,
Mm-hmm.
and even an old film studio brand that we'll be bringing back as well. That's going to be really exciting, from a company that used to exist that will be again. So
Risen, yeah, you're rising them up. You're like risen from the grave, so to speak.
exactly. So there's like lots of cool stuff kind of happening. We've launched a publisher as well, Hex Arcana Publishing, where we did this awesome book called The Book of Beastly Creatures. It's like a hardback with short stories
Mm.
with far too many illustrations, and I was like, excellent. I like pictures
Yeah.
of monsters. That's good. And and we've also been starting to do horror paperbacks in the style of those like pulp horror novels that you got in the 1970s and 80s for like the painted book covers.
Right. They showed like you had like a quick scene in Owlman where they were going through and they were doing research, kind of like that in that format, where it's like,
Let's see if I've got one kicking about. Oh, here's one. Here, come on, there we go. It's got kicking about on my desk.
mm,
So, for example, like just horror paperbacks, but with painted book covers.
right.
This artist, Lisa Falkenstern, that did this book, she did like a whole bunch of book covers in the 80s, and she was retired. She was like painting people's cats, you know. And I was like, dude, you're a genius. We need painted book covers. And she was like, the big players don't pay for painted book covers now. They just want to lift some graphics, you know, a few triangles and put some text on it. And
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, but we have no money and we can somehow afford you. It's like they've got no excuse. So she's been painting us some amazing stuff. And I've got to say, we actually have coming out fairly soon a novelization of Lord of Tears.
hmm
And I tell you, dude, like the reason I will buy this book, and most people, it's going to be the book cover she's painted, is magnificent. What the way that Owlman she's painted with the house and everything like that. It's
hmm
like I want the poster, I want I want everything.
That
It's just,
manner you guys shot in is beautiful. I did have a question about that. So like the interior shots that you did, were those a stage separate from the manor? Because you know how some of it's dilapidated, but then some of it is intact. Was that all shot at that manor? Or
yeah, no, it's all shot in that manner. It's a sprawling place.
the
Even the swimming
pool?
is in
Yeah.
that. It's there.
Yeah, I remember that. Then the spiral staircase when she's
Yeah.
coming down, another scene where it's like, whoa, what's good? But yeah,
That's the
go,
most watched part of the film, you know. That's the worn out part of the tape, you know. That's the
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I remember. Oh, yeah, yeah. There's a couple of nice little chunk scenes in there. Yeah. When you were to go back just a little bit when you're talking about the crowdfunding, because I think that's a very interesting part of what you do. Uh, I know that you've had opportunities to be able to work with people, like you said initially when we first started, but it seems like the crowdfunding thing works for you. Is that because of the fact that you don't have to give up too much of your creative vision and you can keep with some of the principles that you had, like we were talking about earlier, and so it doesn't kind
well,
of like,
yeah. I mean, for a relatively brief while, like just maybe about I don't know, maybe about a couple of years, I was working freelance as a producer and doing some projects based in the States. One of them actually was a film called Kids versus Monsters. And you're talking multi-million-dollar movie, you know. I made in like 7 weeks more than I'd made in like, I don't know, 10 years or something. But you know, there was time spent before and after the shoot as well. You know, it wasn't all just a 7 week holiday in LA, but
yeah,
it was so depressing, so not for me anyway. That I was like, right, take the money and run and spend it on setting up my own studio with Sarah in the UK. And don't get me wrong, nothing to do with America. You know, most of our, the vast majority, in fact, of our audience and the supporters for Hex are from the States. And I absolutely love Americans. Um, but um, but it was just the sharks and the lack of creative control combined
yeah,
meant that it was like a ruthless environment. Like if I was in LA and built my career there, yeah, I'd be pretty damn rich, but all for all the wrong reasons, you know.
right. Because
Like I could,
you'd be selling your soul, so to speak, and not being able to tell the stories that you want to tell.
um, I mean, just like yeah, but also the culture is so ruthless and competitive that you are literally cutting guys' throats to turn a dime like every 3 weeks. Do you know what I mean? Like it was like, you know, it's funny because like directors, or maybe not directors, but the people that make films, like in the normal Hollywood system, the real people that make films aren't directors really. They're assistant directors and production managers. Yeah, these are the stable people that these studios are going to pump millions in and trust. You know, not whoever this kid is that directs.
Yeah.
But what you would have is producers, including people like me, if I'd stuck around, being like, get the cash in, lay the blame, move on, you know, like scorched earth, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like, for me, my dream has always been to build something like my own old-fashioned studio, something that develops, finances, and distributes films within its own kind of apparatus. We do work with other companies, but it was just, but generally it was mostly as much as we could do ourselves as possible, because that's kind of the romance for me of an old studio. Sure, it's a tiny studio. I might have a tiny cigar trying to be a little studio mogul, but like just being this kind of scorched earth mercenary, it was like, no. And when I worked with there, I mean, I worked with some great guys. I mean, heck, I worked with Malcolm McDowell, Clockwork Orange, and stuff like that. And like, and most of the time, these folks would be like, Lawrie, you're a really nice guy. You're not like film producers that work here. And I was like, I know.
Yeah, you had a very interesting quote. I made sure I wrote it down because it's something that really resonated with me. It was like your focus, you said, is telling stories that stand the test of time and then can be joytaneous. I love that word. It said,
Thank you.
yeah, I like that word a lot. It said, regardless if a celebrity tweeted it 6 months ago, and that legacy is so much more important than any personal vanity. I heard that and I go, wow. I go, not a lot of people do whatever their art is for the love of the art. And so that was something that really resonated with me.
Well, thanks. I mean, that's you have to consider, like, when you watch a lot of popular entertainment right now, if you ask yourself the question of how concerned are they to be popular, and if you look at the work, you think this really is kind of like bending to the immediate popular tastes, be it in culture, whatever you name it.
Yeah, it's across the board. Yeah.
Then they've really put that before things, right? And if so, then they've sacrificed everything that stood on the way before that. So it's not that I try to make films or art that is unpopular, but I mean, I tend to be kind of fairly reverential towards the past and kind of cult cinema from the past. Some folks would maybe say I'm a little bit probably old-fashioned or conservative in an artistic aspect. I wouldn't think so. I think quite eccentric and kooky in my own way. But the idea, like, as a normal commercial producer, though, like when I was freelancing, you'd be sitting saying like, "What's hot?" You know, okay, we need this, we need that, bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah.
You know?
we need CGI here, we need jump scares here, we need, they have a I'm a horror, not like fanatic, but I love horror movies. I love classic movies, and I was telling my girlfriend today, I could see kind of some of the parallels with certain things. Like you could tell that it's not like stolen, but you could tell how it was influenced, but there's still that own personal touch to it. And so like I said, it gives the movie more character to me. But I can see that, and there's a difference than just watching horror film X, and it's just like, rah, it's okay, yeah. There was a little bit more to what I saw today, and that's what really connected with me. I was like, wow, this is really cool.
Thanks. I mean, like, we've had our other films. We've had The Black Gloves, The Devil's Machine, and stuff like that. And they've all done well to kind of slowly build our audience. But I would say, though, overall, though, that the independent film scene has changed a little bit. Especially since like maybe 10, 15 years ago when I was, not that long ago, surely, maybe 11 years ago, I was making independent films. it's like from streaming platforms to this kind of concentration of pop culture and
Right.
this like level of vitriol where people disagree to such. I mean, we've seen that across the culture.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and you know, it's so funny, but like for independent filmmakers, take and this might sound like I'm about to throw shade, but I'm not really. But take a studio like A24.
Yeah.
Now, A24 sells itself as a creator of independent films and as a champion, in effect, of independent films and as an independent film studio.
Mhm.
You know, founded by two corporate execs who specialized in marketing. And I can almost see from my experience as a producer, them sitting thinking like, you know what, the artisanal coffee market among cinema goers, that's been forgotten. We need that
Right.
on brand. And so you have kind of like indie film TM, indie film trademark A24 selling indie film as a new corporate brand. And it was
Yeah.
interesting as well because I was thinking like it kind of reached a point where every A24 trailer almost has a formula with the kind of the little violin, the little ding, the little pum pum pop, pum pum pop, to the point where it's like a McDonald's meal. You know, they're going to give you that flavor, that aroma of the
Right.
brand. And that now you might think, well, geez, Lawrie, you slag off A24. No, they make good films. They're cool, but the difference though is that indie filmmakers are now existing in an environment where the whole concept of indie film has been repackaged as a brand by a company worth $6.5 billion, who now say that what their products are definitive representations of what independent cinema is supposed to be.
Oh yeah.
So,
It's,
like,
yeah, it's like that's interesting because like, do you think that with the technology that you have, obviously it's different than 10 years ago, does that allow you to be more competitive with them? Like you know, like you can get on a computer and you can, I'm sure there's editing software that's available, not to the extent that they have, but do some of those tools help you compete a little bit more, or are you just
you know, it's
relying more
funny.
on creativity?
It's like, and you know, technology has certainly allowed us to make films that would have been impossible even 10 years ago. But the collapse in physical sales and the monopolization of VOD platforms, and in particular, their focus on producing what they would describe as original or kind of exclusive content, with basically mercenary outfits that they'll hire to make stuff decided by their committees or boards, mean that they're not really signing independent films to sell. And they also can say you're not getting on the platform. Like, for example, when Amazon did its purge. So independent film actually faces a genuine independent film, not indie film TM, but
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
probably facing what I would describe an existential crisis because there's not going to be $1 billion platform who cares about some guy in Milwaukee trying to make his $20,000 horror movie. In fact, they're going to probably want that guy out the picture because they'll have somebody else make their low budget stuff. And then
Oh,
house,
yeah, just take their idea and then just revamp it, repackage it.
you know, they're probably the ideas are never worth much, but just having people work on a treadmill, like for example, if Amazon decided for tomorrow or Netflix that they wanted horror films with the aroma of indie film, they get their production services companies who they've got like in the black book ready to dial to pump it out. You know, um,
Yeah,
they don't need. So if you're an audience person and you're thinking like, you know what, I want some weird indie horror films or B movies or stuff, then it's going to be a lot harder to get those because the kind of stuff you're watching will be sanitized, corporate approved crap. Um,
yeah. Like maybe something like Shutter. I'm not in this, you know, but like something like Shutter, that kind of like filmmaking studio, or like you said,
I mean,
A24.
Shudder is okay. I mean, Shudder is a subsidiary owned by AMC. They are I, I mean, I like them. They're fine. The folks that run it are nice. But what I will say, and I hope this doesn't annoy them too much, is that like a lot of smaller platforms, they are cliquey. You know, it's pretty much around the LA clique. You know, you got to have
Right.
a lot of tats and a cool look, and be in with the crowd, and then your film will get on Shudder. I'd like to see Shudder do more to get films. It's almost like a lot of the time Shudder places films that are either part of their clique or it's almost paternalistic. Like, hey, these three car mechanics from Argentina that somehow put a film together, let's gift them the privilege of being on our platform, and that buys us a guilt-free conscience to put our buddies' films on.
Yeah.
Now,
Sometimes it's like it's who you know and how you're connected and
that
that
is
kind of thing.
that, and as the opportunities get more narrow as a result of the platforms, the power of gatekeepers becomes far greater. And the fact that we could talk about Shudder, if you think about it, like once upon a time, horror B movies, you had loads of distributors. You know, a lot of the time, the production companies themselves, from your Puppet Master to Trauma to all these companies, they could all coexist, and we're all making sales in retail.
Yeah.
Now you like there's a horror VOD platform that is a subsidiary. So that's
Yeah.
like if you're not if you're not directly making content for Amazon or Netflix or whatever, then it's like you can squeeze yourself on them. But there's only like 2 or 3 people that are the gatekeepers, you know.
Just like
So
anything.
and they're
Just
nice.
like
They're nice people, but it's like there's only so many friends they can have.
exactly. So since
The
we've talked
future.
about I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, so I was just going to give you my amazing prophecy. Um, that this is going to sound ridiculous, but it has been proven true much against my own hopes and expectations. But an old professor of mine in film told me that adult entertainment paints a window of the future. And I was like, no, what are you talking about? No way. But for when you have platforms, let's just call them subscription platforms without being too specific.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I honestly think that that is effectively the model that will be for indie filmmakers eventually. They'll have to build their own bases with their customers, their audiences, and fans, and actually get them involved in the sustainability of their enterprises in a much more direct way than the traditional indirect model of distribution. You'll go and sell through middlemen and distributors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The whole personal subscription model with adult entertainment has led to the collapse of many medium and existential threats to larger sized producers of that type of content. And at the moment in indie film, we're seeing middle-sized distributors starting to go down because they're not big enough to compete with the platforms, and they're not small enough to survive on bread and butter. And so it's weird. It seems to be a prophecy. So in that sense, then crowdfunding and having a direct relationship with your audience as a smaller, say, horror studio is really important because it's a community, and that community is the one that's going to have your back, not a corporate platform that you're trying to make 20% or 30% royalties out of.
Yeah. And so I only have 3 more minutes because it'll cut me off, but I really want to make sure I hit that. So you have Linger that's going to be coming out. That's in post-production now, correct?
Yeah, it's just about finished. It's called Linger. It takes some cool inspiration from Norai the Curse, this really creepy Japanese movie, and also an Australian horror film called Lake Mungo. But of course, as always, it's filled with a whole bunch of our own stuff because that's what we do. And it's on Kickstarter at the moment. So yeah, if you just type Linger and Google Kickstarter, you'll find Blu-rays, T-shirts, and some really cool artwork and packages. And I'll just say as well for Mez, who I consider a friend of mine as well, our relationship is based very much on his earnest love and respect for traditional art and craftsmanship, and he has a real passion for independent cinema as well, which is why he signed on the Owlman and made a figure. Um, there are champions and advocates out there for independent art, and it's a real honor, really, to be working with Mez.
Yeah, and I think that's very important. I really want to make sure I hit on that because I know that you are in post-production with the film, but you are doing a Kickstarter. I'll make sure that I put all the information in there so people can check it out and see what kind of bundles you have and what packages you have that they can actually support. Because we've hit on that a lot, is that you're mainly funding all of this stuff through fans, and you're doing it for fans. And so, any kind of support that fans can give you to help you continue this, because we've obviously heard about the obstacles that you have to go through to create your vision and then be able to put it out. So I want to make sure that if people are interested in helping you, that there's that opportunity to do it. So I'll make sure that I put all that stuff in there, links and everything for you as well.
No, I really appreciate that. It really is just as the way I see it, it's just an alliance of folks who care about independent art, and it's not just my own films that I direct, but we're also developing projects with other directors as well. Just if it's getting darker, you got to light more candles.
Yes, yeah. If we get cut off, I apologize. But like I said, I want to make sure that everybody is there. All right. And then also, I want to thank you real quick before we get cut off. If we do get cut off, I want to thank you very much for taking time and explaining this whole process. Your not only your creative process, but everything that you go through to actually produce and make these movies. It's an amazing journey. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this new one and the
Hey,
books and everything else.
real pleasure to be speaking with you, and lovely to meet you. We'll be keeping in touch. I'll keep annoying you.
Oh, no, not at all. I've been watching the little show, the little specials you have on YouTube too. Like it says 13 things you need to know if you wanted to be an actor or you wanted to get into acting. Those are funny. I really like those. The girl that you have on there. I remember she was in Dragon Knight, and she's in another movie. I
You
didn't
both
get.
Linger as well. Yeah, on the Kickstarter at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was really cool too that you also take this approach of having people that have been in your movies and you just keep carrying them over as different characters. It gives kind of like that familiarity to the films, maybe more of an intimate touch. But there's a lot of stuff that you do that creatively make it unique.
No, we kind of believe in family and trying to build a creative family, and Megan Chemethic's one of our she's one of our rising stars, our own Hex Vivian Lee.
Hmm.
Plus, she doesn't have complex dietary requirements, which means it's easy to film with her. So it's cheap. It's good.
Yeah, you can just feed her the Mars ice cream snacks.
That's right. Yeah.
Lori, I really appreciate you taking time to talk to us about all this stuff. And like I said, I'll make sure I put everything in there for you. Anything that you want to plug or talk about before we go?
Hey, no, just if folks want to check out more of our stuff, then I'd certainly appreciate them visiting our Kickstarter campaign for Linger. And if they like what they see, to pre-order a Blu-ray or buy a digital copy. And if they want to check out our YouTube channel, Channel Hex, then we're trying to build basically an indie film horror community that is kind of like what I'm saying, trying to kind of build up our own thing and try and kind of, survive.
Yeah, because you've put most of the films on there, right? Like I know Lord of Teasers on there, but I didn't get a chance to watch the other ones. But most of them are on there now, right?
We've got a couple of stuff. We've got quite a few short films that we've put up as well from myself and from like my friends and things like that. And they're kind of cool because they're like, some of them are slick and some of them are just kind of rough around the edges. But for people that are especially interested in B movies or even interested in horror filmmaking, then it's good to watch stuff that isn't like super slick or funded sometimes. Stuff that's
Yeah,
like, maybe I could try this. And that's something we'd love to encourage with our channel, is to get more folks into indie filmmaking as well.
yeah, kind of like maybe the behind the scenes or the actual motivational for maybe just somebody that's trying to start out and say, how do I even do it? I mean, I watched, like I said, I watched a couple of the things and I go, oh, okay, this is cool. It's like they're kind of showing you what you need to do and not this pompous way, like most of the time, like you said, there's these clicks with certain things and it's like She's like, hey, how do I start? And it's like, yeah, you don't belong in this club. You can get out of here. It's like, but it's nice that you're taking time to, educate people as well as entertain.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, I can't do that kind of super presentational style kind of YouTube. I don't have enough foundation to rattle through that. Most of the time, it's just me being on the edge of a nervous breakdown. And there's like some really long behind the scenes stuff that we'll be putting up soon on the channel, like basically like over an hour per movie behind the scenes documentary stuff that was put, which really gives you an insight into the mental deterioration of our cast and crew as the project goes along.
Where everybody's just on edge, and then like when they literally kill each other or put them in the pool and drown them for real. Like
Yeah.
just hold them down just a little bit longer. A couple of those scenes were in there. I saw that. Just come back. That was a good movie. I really enjoyed that one. I think I am gonna watch it again. I need to watch the one that you recommended to me too. I really want to check that one out as well. Yeah. Really. All right. Well, again, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm gonna message you afterwards. I have 2 quick questions for you. Okay.
And thanks to your audience as well.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you again. I appreciate it. All right.